Hello, guys. Welcome to the Train Parrot and welcome to another private TA session. Specifically, these sessions are for elite members. We do it live every Thursday at midday UK time. And members of my Patreon community holding that particular tier have the perk of being able to decide which coins we're going to do TA live. Many of these coins, I've never seen them. Sometimes we also review stocks, indices, forex, any pair. You can add it to this poll right before Thursdays. And once a month, we also do one session. That's the last Thursday of the month, where we also look into some exercises, learning some Pine script, more on the coding side, more technical, but just once a month. The rest of the month, we do TA. And in this session, we're going to cover Ethereum, XRP, NEAR, Ethena, Solana, SUI, Link, BTC, AERO, and Drift. Those are all the coins that we're going to review throughout 1 hour. If you want to join these sessions, and you can probably have a look at the link in the description or the QR code that is appearing in the screen. Make sure that you join as an elite member. That is the one that is going to give you to this, along with the summaries of all my altcoin videos sent straight into your email. That's another perk that you get as an elite member. So let's get started straight away with Ethereum. Ethereum has done a lot in the recent time. As you can see in here, we exit from this triangle. We did kind of a fake out in here and we reclaim. And then step by step, we have managed to put new highs around this area. In the recent price action, I mentioned in my recent videos, I mentioned that I was going to distribute as we approach into this area. That is because Ethereum at that area had no longer has, but huge levels of liquidation that were spanning from 4,100 that coincide with these three tops that we put earlier from March 2024 into December 2024, and we have already consumed all of that. So we could say that the motivation to go there from the point of view of liquidity pools is already gone. Now we have new pools, of course. Those are located at 5.1 and 5.6, we could say, but they're way smaller at the time I'm recording this video. That could change in time. Let's say if this starts coming back down a little bit, then new shorts are going to come in. And if we get some 3x's, 5x's as well, they're going to make this heavier. But at the moment, that is significant, but not as significant as it used to be the 4.1 to 4.7. That's the area where I was distributing in my last bit of Ethereum. I sold it at 4.9. And now if we continue going higher, that is still a possibility. Less likely that we do it straight from here. It can happen without doing any pullback, without accumulating new shorts. And that could be thanks to maybe the market seeing a rate cut as something positive, not just as a rumor, but also during the news, during the time they cut the rates. If the market continues to pump, Ethereum could put a new high. I don't discard that. What I will discard at the moment as low likely is that if we get another pump on rate cut, that we just go straight into 6 or 10K, like some people are saying out there. Let's have a look at other aspects. So let me do this with, there's two ways of seeing liquidity pools on trading different. One way is with the colors, with the heat map. And another way is using this, which is called the liquidation profile, that is located on the right hand side. I like that one as well because it's more clear to see in a quantitative way, right? So we can see the 25x and the 10x, and we see where they are more. The colors also help, but it's not as accurate as seeing the histogram. And I focus on 10, 25x's when I want to see the degens, the people that tend to lose it all, yeah? Because market maker tends to go for them first. Not always, but 90% of the time. And for me, that's enough to have a look at where could the price go first. And if we focus in here, we have a decent liquidation that has accumulated at 4.7K. Then on the upside, in the immediate proximity to the price, we have 4.5. And that is a mild level, but it's very close to the price. So the just stretching one hand and it could hit that. A reminder that the first coin that we do usually gets the most love. That's because it got more votes, and I'm assuming that you guys want to see more about that. And another reminder that there is the chat in the live stream in YouTube. So if you want to write down anything as I'm talking about a coin, something that you also want me to cover, of course, as an elite member, you get all my attention. I have the chat right in front of my screen, and whatever you want to ask me, I'm going to reply it live. Notice as well, still, we're focusing on the digits, right? 10x, 25x, and more. And notice that there is quite more bigger liquidation of 4148, followed by 4055, then 3894. And I think here is the sweet spot for me if we wanted to complete some sort of pattern that is very bullish, right? So if we extend this into here, it doesn't need to get that low, but let's exaggerate a little bit. Let's say that we get a rejection and we go intraday up outside that, but then we see a rejection and we put a new lower low. Yeah. So there is this low at 4.1. Let's say we go into 3980, and then we do another one and we extend up until 38. I will say that will be a really great opportunity. Building another flag like similar to the one that we have in here. Typically, the price gives a lot better risk to reward if there's going to be upside to first pinch and hint that we're going lower, but we don't, right? So this is a great example, right? We pinched that was the perfect, sweetest entry for a long where everybody was about to puke, and then boom, impulsive wave. Same in here. So looking for that sort of risk reward golden is much better than starting to enter in a breakout that could fail or could succeed. But if it fails, it's going to hurt a lot more to fall from the top of the triangle, right? So it's better to enter from an imaginary triangle that we already have placed there. It's touching nothing. This is just imaginary. I'm imagining that we go to those levels and we hit the degen liquidity that at the moment is larger than the top. That gives me more reassurance to buy Ethereum again and hit another push higher than where we are right now. I don't FOMO into this, in other words. And let's look at the price action again, this time on the weekly time frame, and let's see what the RSI is doing. I think that is also important. In my last reading, when we had the breakout from here, I was expecting to see a revenge rally, and this is not fully accurate in terms of my call because, as you can see, it broke above, below. Now we are below, so it hasn't been that perfect. We have to kind of cheat and move the line like this to say, yeah, it's been so far a revenge rally, but by a few centimeters is not. But we are sticking around in this area, and let's see the healthiness of this rally so far. Let's connect these two pivots like that. And we are very close to support. So 63, 62, 60, 63. 63 is currently the most bullish support. So if we hold that, we are still very good. We could go slightly lower than that, and it wouldn't be necessarily the end of the full rally. And so let's find 63 as a support. I have very old levels, so I'm going to have to clear this. Let's remove that. Let's use 63 only for now. And that is currently located at 4247. So that's the most bullish support at the moment. And as I say, breaking that, it wouldn't bother me. And if we focus on the weekly, you can see that this was previous resistance, right? 1, 2, and 3. And what can we say about this price action? We can say that it has been partially or, fully already retest, right? We already pinched 4075, very close to all these tops. So if we were to go lower and break that 4239, I will be tempted to say that is because market maker wants to put a lower low relative to that 475, and that means already 39. By doing that, we are already taking the larger one in here and maybe the second one at 444. The question is, can we really get to 3878? Well, that's a tough question. I don't know, but there are three liquidation levels and decent amount of motivation to do a proper retest. Where things don't look great? Well, if we form this falling wedge and we break to the downside, typically a falling wedge after an uptrend should continue. Here you have 1, 2, and 3 impulsive waves. So in theory, it can still break to the downside, but the falling wedge itself says, no, I'm a bullish pattern. I'm in the mood for another wave up to get to 5.7 or to 6K. But wave theory says, well, we are kind of done in here, at least for a bit, with a decent, larger cool off. So what happens if we get that cool off after the third wave? Well, that means that this is not going to be sufficient for a pullback, maybe a little bit deeper into 3, 3. Don't kill the messenger, but that is the largest pull that we have post this chunk in there from the Dgens. So let's enable the other pools as well, and let's see the full accumulation of liquidity. So we got those. You got this 3453 closer to 35, and this peak at 3K that has never been taken. I will reserve that for something more dramatic in the crypto and in general markets. I will say 3K and beyond 3K. It's a bit too deep, but coming back to retest the 3.8 and intra-candle weekly pinch the 3.5, I think is possible, I will say. Likely, a little bit likely if we get a little bit of that bear flag that I talk on Bitcoin, okay? And let's go with XRP, unless there's any questions in the chat about Ethereum specifically. I did a dedicated video on XRP, so there shouldn't be. Oh, by the way, let me see the longs versus shorts on Ethereum. That's actually pretty important. We had the breakout, we came back inside the triangle. So there's been tons of longs that pull back, but we're still holding support, so that's looking healthy. And in terms of socials, we are on the lower end, so things are healthy for Ethereum. Let's go with XRP. And on XRP, I was talking yesterday about this potential to go into 78. We talk about the global support at 36. I encourage you to watch that video unless you have any specific questions. I'm going to make it pretty short in here. On longs versus shorts on XRP, we are still above support. I think if things continue bullish for Bitcoin, we can do that extra leg into 78. That can bring the price. Let me see. This is 78. We are pointing to 63. That is around 5.4 price for XRP if we continue bullish on Bitcoin. Let me see the liquidations on XRP. I covered all of this yesterday, so you can watch it in full detail in that dedicated video. We have a breakout on the daily, and this is from a triangle pattern. It calls for continuation and a potential expansion into all this liquidity that ends at around $4. You can see the breakout on the momentum as well. We have breakout on the on the weekly. I think we don't have a breakout on the weekly. We are just potentially foreseeing a potential revenge rally number 2. We already have a number 1 in here on 14th of July. If we get a second one, which is less likely than the first, we could have that. And also I mentioned that this looks like a fractal of this, but in a diminished way, right? We already hit the target of the double bottom. That was 3.6. And if we repeat this story, we could do a slightly higher high right after this move in there. Let's go with near very quickly. And with near, there's also a little bit of sideways price action. The thing that is looking decent in here in the setup with near is that we had a breakout. There's been 2 retests and the momentum still doesn't fake out. So we are still at highs relative to the double bottom in here. And it looks like a second double bottom. So potentially near could carry on here into the 60s for the RSI. The price action hasn't done much, right? It formed a double bottom, pretty large, but it never broke out from the neck of $3, 3.1. It stayed just going sideways within the point of control. It's just stuck there doing nothing. The momentum is increasing. So that's true. And where is that 60 that I just mentioned that we could go? That is a very humble 3.7. Let me see. Yeah, so that will be like a move of the RSI into this area. Let me see the healthiness of the price action. Well, on the weekly, we are in a downtrend, right? So we are just stuck in the area where near likes to trade. There is like a squeeze that could push into the high end. We have a resistance at 7.2 that is very significant because we've been at least 3 times already respecting that. And remember the story with Ethereum. We also put 3 tops, and on the 4th time, we broke into almost 5K. So if Near wanted to repeat that pattern, it's got as a candidate that 7.2 with a potential move into, $9 to repeat what Ethereum has already done. Altcoins tend to mimic some things from Ethereum from BTC in a delayed way, and we could do that. Let's see the socials. Well, it's all very average. In terms of longs versus shorts, there's quite a lot of longs accumulating in here. Interestingly, price still doesn't follow up with that. Momentum is indicating upside, price just sideways. Delta longs versus shorts upside. Let's see if we can find some liquidity pools in here. I'm gonna have to downgrade this to, oops. Okay, we don't have near on trading different. Let's do it in here on CoinGlass. Right. So in the last 3 months, we got plenty of those longs that we just saw in the indicator placing their risk around here. And that makes it a little bit of a tough setup. Don't get me wrong, because Bitcoin at 107 has similar liquidity, also attracting the price, and it never play out. We kind of bet against that, and we took a long, and good that we did that because we're doing great. But this pattern in here is bullish, but it's sitting on top of a lot of liquidity from longs. So my worry is that part of those longs might decide as soon as you get a breakout to take some profits, and that will attract the price into this area of risk. That spans from 2.2 into 1.9. It's not that large, but it can still hurt and extend the period where this is still putting lower lows and lower highs. And that is kind of my worry. There is some liquidity from shorts at 3.1. That is the risk on the top end. Let's go with Ethena. Yeah, we have very little history on this coin. There's a point of interest that I left a month ago on the weekly RSI, which is located at RSI 44. That's just because we have this massive hill and then we are doing this uptrend. So my question was, are we going to test support after this straight line of the momentum into 62? Or are we going to continue to the upside? So far, Ena is building 60% of a double top with 80 cents there. Longs are very, very, very overcrowded in here. At 55 is not a large number, right? So this ranges from 0 to 100, so it's in the middle end, but ENA has never been above 57. So from the point of view statistics, we need to really break that trend. We got a chance, right? So this is like a cup and handle here. It's a bullish pattern, so maybe we can break out. There's a bunch of coins that I call for a breakout, I think including Solana, that I said that the longs, the longs versus shorts could break out and go beyond the maximum it's ever been, and it did. Okay, because we are in the final stage of topping year in the cycle, and those are the kind of things that we do in this seasonality. So I started calling for breaking those levels, so maybe, and I can do that, just a thought, not kind of a forecast. So keep an eye in case the longs start going in that direction. You can get access to the indicators if you go to the shop in my Patreon website, and there's an area to get access to them either via Telegram charts, so you can check all these charts live via Telegram, or you can also check them if you have a TradingView account and then add your indicators. Obviously, you need to get one or the other product from my shop. And yeah, so how is it looking, Anna? So I just discovered a cap and handle, but the cap and handle is also in here. Sorry, yeah, that's the one. So it's with a neck at 78. That's heavy resistance. And if we broke out from there, let me update this pattern, because initially it was placed based on this, but now that we got the full cap and handle, let's do it like this. So this breakout offers a jump into 135, okay? And then I have a super, super double bottom that I just have it there just in case. Remember that we are in altcoin season, so things can pop during altcoin season, as long as this particular one where we are lasts for longer than the other ones we have had so far in this cycle that have lasted for just a couple of days or a week maximum, right? We want to have an altcoin season that lasts for longer and that there is rotation of the liquidity into the different assets, so we can see some nice pops on the different coins. In this case, for ENA, either we get the pop just into the top of the range at 1.2 or 1.3, and that's it, or we complete the double bottom and we see a magnificent all-time breakout of a double bottom into a level of 2.3. We also have this Fibonacci extension pointing at $2 on the golden pocket, and the extension of 1 is 1.3. So we got the Fibonacci extension calling for around those levels, right? And as well as the patterns. And for the pullback, where is this 44? Before I let you go with in a 44, let's see, that risk is at the moment at 36, and I think it's a real risk that you need to account for. This doesn't mean, oh, TTP is saying we are going to 36. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying there is a risk there. There is something there, a hair in the soup. So if you are drinking a soup and there's a hair, you have to do something. If you cannot remove the hair, someone tells you that's the rule. Well, put a piece of paper so you can drink the rest of the soup and the hair can stay there, right? In terms of trading, that will mean something less metaphoric. It will mean something like put a stop loss, or something that in case we get attracted to that once again if the market decides to puke. That is an area as well of where ENA has traded the most. So 36 to 38, you can see a big hill there that coincides with this yellow line. That is the calculation of going into that weekly support if we need to go there. And let's see on ENA liquidation levels. We only have 3 months and we have a big liquidation at 58. At 30, I don't see anything. It's just this one in here is the most immediate liquidity. That is the risk. Let's go with the next one, which is Solana. Solana, I also did a dedicated video. It's got a breakout on the weekly at the moment. And on the daily, I think we also had something, but my memory has been damaged after some intense holidays. I'm laughing. Look, we are taking already that liquidity that we talked about in the video, the 2 to 3, that red thing is already in progress being taken. And we are coming up in a pattern that is not very bullish, unfortunately. Let me show you why. So if let's put properly the line. I don't think it spans that far away. It's more like this. Although we are having a breakout, we already broke out, and we close a candle on top of this. So we could say we were in the bearish pattern, but the bearish pattern didn't play out. It should have fallen from the bottom of the bearish pattern, but instead of that, we took this liquidity and we are sticking around above the pattern. So that is bullish. The momentum still doesn't put any single higher high in here. So it gets to 65. Now we are at 64. So that's, if it closes like this, is another bearish divergence. We do have higher lows from here with a fake out there. So hopefully this is going to be addressed soon to the upside to reflect some potential upside without having to puke into levels like 166 or 180, which was the risk of the previous bearish pattern. There is liquidity up until 266, but let me zoom out because I'm pretty sure that we have more. Let's change this. We have all the levels. So this liquidity at 300, we cannot see it because they expired in the implementation of trading different, but I'm pretty sure that the largest liquidity is over $300. And yeah, and on the weekly, this breakout, as I mentioned in the video, looks pretty healthy from the point of view of the momentum. Where I'm a little bit slightly worried is what's going to happen once we hit 233 in here, because this is looking like a revenge rally. So I'm worried that from there we come back into a 170. There's a hill in the volume there. There's support to do a retest. That is kind of my worry. But in the good side, on the flip side, we have achieved already closing candles in green inside the golden pocket area from top to bottom, and that is very positive for Solana. You can watch the in-depth video to really see the full picture, including on chain, including news, and including all of that. Unless you have any particular question, you can drop it in the live stream comments in the chat. What else can we say about Solana? Well, this, as I said, it was hitting all this limit of 65 that was never broken, ignoring the part that is invalid of the chart. And I went for holiday saying, well, we could reach the level of 1 extension or the 1618 and do a breakout. And we are currently in the process of doing that. Watch my video about Solana as well, because I talk about a rotation that has been happening, I think, 3 to 4 weeks in a row from Ethereum into Solana. And I think if Ethereum takes a dip, if Ethereum comes back down, it's going to drag Solana too, right? And then Bitcoin is going to have a moment where it sees the Bitcoin dominance pumping. I think that could bring another leg up of Bitcoin. But if it goes in a leg up and it stays there without doing any blow off, then it will allow Ethereum to have another go, and subsequently Solana as well. So that could mean just that we're going to have another second party for these assets right after Bitcoin. Different is if Bitcoin starts stopping and it stops here and it starts crashing with general markets and all of that, and we have a huge bloodbath that ends the cycle, then forget it. So I will say, because we are at this stage in the cycle, be more careful. Use risk management at this point, unless you want to inherit 3 years a coin in your pocket or sell it at a huge loss in the middle of the bear market. Right. That's at least what I'm doing. And even if that causes me to make less profits, it is a must, right? So discipline is, at this point, is mandatory. It's no joke. SUI, let's go with SUI. Let's load the liquidity. Until where do we have liquidity? On Solana, we could say until 250, stretch it to 265, we have huge liquidity. After that, there is a big decline. So the less liquidity pools you have, there is less motivation from that perspective to move the price up. So be aware of that. And let's go back to SUI. So SUI was doing like a fractal in here, this hill in the momentum that was repeated for a second time, and we were speculating that there were some hints that on the third time it was not going to happen because there were some patterns broken. And we started immediately seeing like weird things, like this reached there and it had a big retracement, not like all the stars, the starting points of this move up. This impulsive move lasted way longer without any sort of pullback, but this time we had a big pullback, and then the next leg up was diminished in terms of momentum relative to the first one. So then we have another decent pullback, and we are kind of delaying this move into the top of the range. And the big question is, can we get for a third time into 81? Because if we do that, of course, where can we get? Let's see, 81. So that means getting into $10, right? So we already did it in here, then we did there. Can we get into $10 a third time and then call it? I think there is a chance that we go higher. I'm not sure if we're going to get to the 10. That is even beyond the Fibonacci golden extension, an extension of one. So basically repeating the same performance of this leg in here will get us into $6.7 just to have some other range to play with. We had a breakout on the weekly and two retests. So it's been a painful period in here, consolidation without follow up with the actual breakout. The breakout did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks up and then just sideways and around the 3-6 trading range. And what am I looking for? Well, I'm looking for defending the white line in here, not breaking below 2.8. That is kind of a little bit stretching it too much. Also defending the yellow line. So sticking around this area, forming a bull flag is still fine. And that could give us another leg into the $5. I think that is not difficult to do. Let's see if we have liquidity that's very interesting around that area on SUI. Yeah, so we already took a very decent chunk at 4.4, and now we have left all this chunk from there into 4.8. And of course, after hitting 5.4, we must have left there decent amount. Let me update these patterns. It's looking a little bit messy on the daily. Gosh, what's going on with the mouse? Right, let's do it again from the top there. So SUI is at the moment in a breakout with the price. Look, I haven't done this and I didn't notice, but it's good that I'm seeing it now live. So the daily momentum broke out on 8th of September, and that was still below the resistance of the price. And the price follow up on the 11th of September, today. So it's doing pretty great. On the 10th started the breakout of the price, thanks to Bitcoin doing what it did with the PPI. And this pattern, I will say, which is like a big flag in here coming from $2.3, I think is doable, that it can reach the 4.7. So watch out with that for the bullishness. Hopefully CPI is going to allow that. There's a report coming in 1 hour. Today is Thursday. If you're watching this on Friday, in the public video, that's because that's the recording. Yeah, that's doable. And on here on the weekly, let's see the RSI is holding the support. Yeah. Let's see this in a different perspective. Let's remove these drawings and let's see if we connect this like that. Right, so we have an initial breakout, a layer 2 breakout in here, holding support, as painful as this one. So what I wouldn't like is that we do another breakout like this, and then we just continue in this dragging period. Because that's basically going to push the price into 65 RSI, and that's definitely going to be really humble target. Come on, calculate that. So yeah, that could give us the $5, right? The $5 where we have all the liquidity on SUI is achievable by repeating what we have done already, 1, 2, and we could get a wave 3 into the $5. And with that, we take all of this. Of course, we can do a lot more with SUI, but we need to attract more people, because probably the socials are doing really crap. As I say, they're doing terrible. This is, pretty low. We've been last week below the Bollinger Band, first time in the whole history of SUI. We've never been below it. Very interesting. We've been above it 2 times. So hopefully we can get back above that. Obviously, that's not the point to enter. That's the point to exit. And this is alpha, right? Being below the Bollinger Band with the social dominance at 0.75, pretty low reading. Yeah, you can do a little bit lower, but you are in the area where you are a bit safer. Not to just straight away enter, but start looking for entries, right? I wouldn't trade the breakout on SUI. I don't trade breakouts on anything really. I look for areas, lower lows and stuff like that, and I look for strength within that moment of a perceived failure, where I start looking for, well, there are some hints that we're doing a double bottom or something, and then I go up. Or I see a breakout on the RSI and I see that the price still hasn't done it. I prefer that to both already doing it, and then we get a fake out, and then we go for liquidity of 2.7, 2.3, 1.5 is a little bit too further away. That's for the bear market probably. Next coin, Link. BTC, I cover it every day. Maybe I'm just going to do a very fast look, then AERO and Drift. So let's do Link. And if you cannot comment in the live stream, make sure that you let me know on the community on Patreon, because I'm not seeing any comments. I think we left it just for YouTube members for a while. So if you cannot comment, refresh the video. Exit the live stream, re-enter, and maybe you are going to be able at a point to comment. Because there could be a technical issue that I'm not seeing comments at the moment in the live stream, and I know that there is people watching because I see the numbers there. Right. So Link, where are we? Well, Link is already ahead quite a lot. I left this red line, which reminds me that probably I make a call that we were going to hit in a revenge context, this yellow line in here. We went straight up. We pierced it and we came back down into support. Support has been slightly broken, we could say. Nothing that is impossible to repair. So, for example, if this week we reclaim the white line, we're going to say, well, we can forgive just 1 point lower, but we have already achieved the initial revenge rally on the RSI. Where could we go next? So let's see the options that we have. We are very close to the global resistance at 75. That's a point of interest. And we have the global support at 40, 41, but we have to leave that as a failure scenario, right? So if BTC collapses, general markets as well, we can keep note of where is 41 and where is 75. And let's add that. So 75 here and 41 here. Yeah, makes sense. Let's look at the price action. There you go. So a global test of support is this green line in here that also is coinciding with the 41 RSI that we just put. You can see the red line in there, and it's also a line of support. That is if basically we retrace all the gains from this rally that came from a double bottom, and we're hitting the first resistance at 27, which is the level of one of the most important order blocks from the bear market. So that is resistance 27. The next one is 32. And then that 75, if we achieve the full expansion that we can do on the top of the range on the weekly RSI, that leads us into 37, which coincidentally is also testing the green line, right? Maths are crazy. Look, all these points in there, all these points in there, and RSI are calling for the same prices, basically 12 for Black Swan, or 37. Black Swan could go beyond. I didn't want to save Black Swan for a failure scenario. Let's call it like that. And 37 is top of the range if we continue to repeat this. And Link looks very healthy, I will say, right? So we have higher highs, higher lows, and just big retracements. But that's the way Link trades, right? It's very exaggerated to the downside. Then there are good recoveries. Of course, once you start putting lower lows and lower highs, that's a different story, but we are not there yet, right? So if we top at 27 and we start coming back down into a bear market, we're going to say that was the peak of the market and this was just a dead cat bounce. But if we carry on beyond 27, we still have upside in here. For a degen target from this big impulsive move there, we have a golden extension of 47, something to keep in mind as well. What else am I gonna say about the price action? I talk about the RSI. And yeah, Link broke down in terms of longs. They threw the towel, and we are kind of in the process of reclaiming that for another wave. We are at 57, and typically the risk spikes when the longs are at 68, unless we break out that for the first time in history that we have up until September 2021, a history of longs versus shorts. I think Link was way older than that, but that's what we get from the platform of historical values, unfortunately. So I don't know if there has been more longs on Link before. I suspect that yes. Socials are very low. And let's look at liquidation levels. Do we have Link here? I'm so blind there. So on the daily, there's a breakout. And why do I don't have RSI? I need RSI. RSI. That sounded like I'm addicted to it, right? It's like these people saying, where's my drink? Right. So this is the daily RSI. There's a breakout. The risk is between 21 to 19, topping at those levels. Oh, we have unselected some things that are important. If we focus on degens, that peaks at 21 for, let's say, a failure scenario could go there also to 20. And if we include everybody, we can see that there is a decent motivation to move the price higher in here before going to a bear market or before going to a bear market. We can still have a pullback before going to red. Red doesn't guarantee that we go first there. It just says there's a good chance. And with this flag in here breaking out already on the daily, this is within the reach, the red, that I will call it low hanging fruit. How much up is that? It's like a 20%. And we have here also an inverse head and shoulder with the neck at 23.8. That can easily reach 26, 25 and something dollars. And then for the second half, if we do another half of that, we can get into the 28.6. Yep, that looking good. Let's see the next coin. I'm gonna leave BTC for the end of the video. I just want to make sure that all the altcoins are covered. After all, I just did BTC 1 hour ago, and you can watch that too. Sorry, what was it? AERO. I think I've done this multiple times. Drift, I've never done it. I don't know what is that. Is there any? It's listed on KuCoin. And do we have any news? No. Right. Look at this RSI. Look crazy. What is this doing? Okay. Good. Okay, so this was a double bottom, and then it extended with a neck up until $1. That was the resistance of the previous support of this pattern here. It closed above it against the next resistance of 1291, and then it closed against the next resistance 1582, which was previous support there and resistance here. And what else can we say? I will say that we haven't achieved the full target of this pattern, which should be somewhere around 1867. And what do we have there? We have liquidity right at that point. The RSI broke out, and let's see the healthiness of this. So it's defending the support. That's fine. It hasn't tested here, neither there. So it's in the most expansive way. We have peaked at 67, which is around the same level where we peaked before. We're kind of mimicking this wave in here. So watch out for a breakdown. After the breakdown, we had a consistent downside until 30. So watch out to getting burnt around these levels. Yeah. I think we need to defend the $1. That's definitely the case for the most bullish scenario. Longs are not pulling back that aggressively, so they are sticking around above these levels where we used to be at the bottom. So that is also good that we have them there still. And I will love to see the completion of a very interesting pattern in here. So if we could come back to 158 and get the full cup and handle here, that will be amazing, right? So that will change things in terms of more bullish targets, because from bottom to top, this can send the price into 2.9. 2.9, yeah, and that's a higher high. We have lower highs here though. So that's a point against that theory. That's a point saying, well, we are only going to reach maybe this 1.8 because we are pushing lower in here. So if we connect this like that, this one is pointing up. So higher highs and lower lows. This is expanding. It's a tough one. But if we get into 158, if you trail it into this area and you bite strong as you hit 2.5, we might get into 2.9 and almost $3 there, I think. And liquidation levels, I'm gonna go straight here. Was AERO. And we get a first question. Nat, how are you? What are some potential pullback targets for SUI if it reacts badly to the CPI? Right. I'll reply that as soon as I finish with AERO. So 1.1, there's decent liquidity there, but that's just next to the price. Then we have $1. So if we just went to $1 to do a retest, that will be fantastic for the weekly chart. Just respecting that to not spoil the cap and handle. And that area, in my opinion, that will be a buy. Not a buy to sell the house, right? To take a trade. Take a trade, a decent trade with risk management, with position sizing relative to the whole portfolio, right? Something that you can average down if we get back into 0.7 or into 50 cents if it fails. But if it succeeds with that volume, take advantage of a rally into 1.5, and at 1.5 protect the profits. If it breaks out from there, there will be some battle around here, right? So the stop loss not around here, a little bit lower than 1.2. And if you win the battle in here, then move the stop loss and trail into heaven. But always with risk management, always with a plan, and trying to see ahead of time rather than reacting in fear and having emotions. So have the plan, decide everything that can go wrong, process it with rationale, and leave emotions outside. That's kind of the idea. Let's go SUI. Am I gonna do it here? Yeah, let's do it here. So we just crossed with SUI all the way from 3.1 to 3.6. So we took all the liquidity in between, and we're leaving behind below $3, right? So a failure. So CPI, we need to distinguish between CPI volatility, just because there is volatility when there is a reading, right? So if we get the same amount as expected, there can still be a kick up, down. Yeah, that's just intraday volatility reaction to the event, the people and their stop losses very close to the price. That's natural. That's not what I mean by something going wrong. If the CPI gets a reading that puts a lot of pressure to keep the rates high, investors that are betting a cut at 50 basis points, then they're going to get disappointed. Then they're going to fear that everybody's out all that open interest on Bitcoin. That moves Bitcoin in a more decent way, and it can create a wave of fear that could span for 3-4 days or more. And then these candles that are large there tend to replicate to the opposite, right? So you have a big candle from 3.46 into 3.617, and then you can see a reversal that comes back and retests 3.4, and it could come back and put a higher low around here. Now, if Bitcoin plays out the bear flag and it does more than an extension of 1, which I think it was 102 to 105, and Bitcoin goes to 95, then SUI can come back in here to the bottom of this pattern. It can go to 2.9, yeah? And that's kind of, if Bitcoin does also something big. Let's look at the liquidity in the short term as well for SUI to give a more complete answer to that. We got only one question today, guys, so I'm gonna give a proper answer. So we have liquidity between 3.1 and 2.5. So it depends on how big is the disappointment, right? So it's not like a black and white, it's a gray. Obviously, this $3 there is a lower low, and we need Bitcoin also to react to put a lower low as well for SUI to also grab the 3 and slightly below it. Right, next, and I think last is Drift, which I don't have here. Drift, USDT, listed in Bybit Spot. And I suspect, I've done it before. Oh my God, my memory is terrible. Well, no surprises. Drift can form an inverse head and shoulder in here. It's been trading in this accumulation area, 68 to 54, since February, putting lower lows, and it's done a breakout, but the breakout is just going sideways, like many coins, right? That's the breakout. The breakout went there, boom, and it stayed there. It's not a big reaction. It's not that bearish. It's just sideways. It's waiting for something. Yeah, the whole market is waiting for something. Everybody wants the rate cuts, and everybody's caring about the CPI reading and the geopolitical, and everybody's waiting for something. And also because general markets continue just to put all-time highs, and everybody's like, oh, when is it gonna puke? At some point, it has to have a big pullback, and I think that also sets very risk on assets like a coin that I never heard about, right? Going sideways. That's natural. If things settle and Ethereum does another move up, then Solana, then ADA, then a lot of other crappy coins, and eventually it's gonna land in here. What is the volume? 390K. Okay, this is very cute, right? Whereas the head and shoulder inverse is this and that. And target of that is, the mid is like this. I even forgot how to use the mouse. The target is $1. And at 1.1, we have the previous support, now resistance. And then we have this other trading range at 1.1 to 1.4. Let's look at the RSI, which, as I said, what are these lines? There was a breakout that was in May, and it had one of the most painful retests, and then it put a higher high there, but it hasn't put one in a while. Since July, it cannot put a higher high. That's because the price is just going sideways. But we now can say, well, it depends how we close this week. This part of the candle is still moving. So if this closes up like it is now, we can say we have a first pivot. We had a breakdown, right? So initially this was like this, and it came back down. So it has lost some momentum, but since it's so close, each pivot to each other, I say, okay, let's move to this and let's call that the actual pivot. I have done that multiple times. It's a little bit cheating, yeah? But in trading, there's always a little bit of cheating. Nothing is 100% perfect. Everything is subject to your own interpretation. This is mine. What else can I say? Longs are piling up and they're sticky, and that is good, right? Price going sideways and longs entering and entering and entering. And there's a little bit of a spike in attention from social media. So something is going on with Drift now that is calling the attention of people, just like it happened mid-July. But the maximum it can do is 35, and now it's at 4. So it's 10% of the attention it can get. It can get a lot more attention, of course, if it does a big pump. And let me see if we can spot a large target on this coin, and then we call it because we are over 1 hour. Let's see if we do it like this. So if we repeat that huge performance there, if there's a reason from fundamentals to do that, we can get into $3. The golden pocket is at 466, 465. And liquidation levels of drift. Do we have that? Wow. Yeah. Well, typically when you see in the chart that the longs continue to pile up, then you go to the liquidation heat map and you find what? The risk. And the risk is here. So from 50, there's a big spike there. And then from 34 to 38. So you can also have a look. I don't have it here, but you can have a look at the open interest, how much is increasing. That should confirm that there is a lot of longs. And if there's too many longs, well, it's a dangerous setup. So it might need a little bit more of taking them out a bit further, maybe below this 50 into 40s. Unfortunately, that might destroy a little bit the pattern. Yeah, it's unfortunate because it makes it a lot better risk reward when you see that you complete a pattern like an inverse head and shoulders, a bullish pattern with a nice target of $1, and you don't see an overcrowded area. That gives me reassurance that I'm doing the correct thing, right? It can still play out. right? In an overcrowded space, if everybody's so bullish and wealth with retail all together pointing at the same area, but eventually there is a big profit taking and then it comes back. So watch out with too many longs. It's at 61 at the moment. The maximum is finished 77. All right, guys, I hope you enjoy the live stream. We're going to have another one next week. It's also going to be TA. We still have one more week to go for the last week of the month where we do Pine Script. If you're watching this video recorded, you're going to be watching the shortened version in YouTube on Friday, from Friday, and over the weekend you can watch it. And you can join as a Patreon member. You need to get elite tier to be able to be part of this. If you do that, I really appreciate it. You will be forming part of 40 people, 40 elites we have at the moment. And only one question: where is the rest of the 39 elites? Well, I hope to see you next week, guys. Bye bye. Take care.